Isn't it wonderful how usually everybody knows what they want, and yet nobody knows what they want? And there are certain spaces, like this one, where we step into that space with a specific expectation. And when you say to somebody, "Oh, you have too many expectations," the first thing they say is, "I don't have any expectations." But there is an underlying expectation that when you step into the meditation space, the teacher will take charge and you will just be present, and there is no work on your behalf. And I understand that in Hinduism, I keep hearing this, some of my regular students feel free to say it, the Guru is God. You come to the Guru, all of your questions are answered, they take care of your things, they take care of your problems, they give you good advice and guidance, and for as long as you have the blessings of your Guru, you are well protected from the greater sorrows of the world. And then they leave here and they do as they please anyway, completely forgetting that that was the Guru's talking. Huh? So everybody has an idea of what they want, and underneath that idea of what they want are their expectations. Expectations in terms of getting something or acquiring something, and expectations of how they should get it and how they should acquire it and how people should behave. We have just like a whole drama of expectations going on. And then when you say to people, set your expectations aside, that is your ego speaking, they get even more upset because now you're accusing them of something. Isn't that so? Yeah. The minute you drag this tiny little word, ego, into any sentence, people get upset. Because in the trendy New Age world, the minute you say that's your ego speaking or that you're coming from your ego, oh, now we must all get upset. You're accusing me of not being spiritual. You're accusing me of coming from arrogance, and you're accusing me of this and yeah. So, what is ego? Let's hear this one. I'm keen. Give me a view. Everybody. What is ego? Put your chat on and answer me. What is ego?
A subjective view of reality.
A subjective view of reality.
The personality expressing itself in order to promote itself, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're both half right and you're both half wrong. Over here, who's talking? Ego. What is ego?
Oliver here.
Yes.
My view of the ego is the ego is the manager of the temple which houses and carries the soul. And the ego always looks to manage and preserve the temple and keep it alive as best as it can.
So what is the temple?
The temple is the body that you've got on this planet.
Okay, so you're saying the ego is that component that manages the body and seeks to preserve the body while you are on this plane.
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Pascal, it is not the soul language, darling. Really, it's not. Anybody else? What is ego? We talk about this all the time.
It's not how you see you.
Huh?
I can't get it out. It's how one person sees themselves.
It's the self-image. It's how somebody perceives themselves in the world. But it's interesting how we use this word so often. We use it all the time. And if we don't actually understand what it is, then what is it we're accusing people of when we say you're coming from your ego? And what is it that we're feeling accused of when people say, this is your ego speaking, or you need your ego stroked?
Well, it's the same as using the word egotistical, I guess. It means self-serving, as opposed to looking at things from the greater good.
Is the ego not capable of seeing things for the greater good? Now, one of the most famous psychologists of the modern world, Freud, talked about three components of a human being's functioning on this plane, in a body. Firstly, you have to be in a body. So here's Oliver's understanding. You have to be in a body to have an ego. Soul has no ego. And then he talked about three components. He said the first was ego, which is the psychological component that makes decisions in an interaction between your unconscious mind and your conscious reality. Right? So what is unknown within you gets expressed through a decision into what you call your reality. And when you have a dysfunctional ego, it is indicated by your interaction with that reality, which then brings up any and all behaviors, including things like what you were talking about, being selfish and not being able to see the greater good. That we would say is a limited perspective of the universe or the world or your society, because there's a particular distortion or slant on how you see your place in the world. In addition to that, ego, as that psychological component, refers to how you see yourself, your self-image in the world, and what you anchor your identity on. So all of this, those major definitions, talk to ego. Carl Jung looked at archetypes to describe the roles or the functions that ego takes on in its expression in the world. Some people would say ego is exactly that thing called self-image and self-respect and self-esteem, and we would look to developing a healthy ego. But just this understanding of ego, that it is in fact a psychological process of using what is inside of you to interact with what is outside of you. And in fact, to determine yourself in the world. Now, on the spiritual pathway, when we talk about ego, mainly we talk about ego as something that we need to overcome in order to experience mastery of self. But within the ego itself, there are so many things that become master of one's presence, one's place, one's doing, one's being on the earth plane, that we have to be able to identify those things before we say, okay, I now have mastery of my ego at least, before I have mastery of myself. So this ego, when it is at work, is an inside-out job. It is accompanied, according by Freud, by the two other components called the id, which I secretly think of as the idiot. Sorry, this is me just being irreverent to psychological masters. And the superego. So Freud said the id is that part of you that seeks to preserve your place. That is your, not intuitive, it's your gut instinct. It's very often, we refer to it here as the reptilian brain. It's that thing that puts you into competition with other beings in order to survive, and to survive better than other beings. And then he talked about the superego, which is that component of your consciousness that seeks to blend in and to be part of everything that is more than you. So it is the superego aspect of ourselves that should be looking to the greater good. A functional ego, a healthy ego, does that. It is a dysfunctional ego that has too many identities demanding attention that cannot do that. So we know that from a being present on the earth plane perspective, oh, sorry, dearest. Just for everybody's information, when Pascal was saying soul language, he was suggesting a topic. Oh, so sorry. I'm going to come to that. So, we know that on the earth plane, we have all of these identities that we create to ground ourselves here, and that is a conscious choice and therefore part of our ego. Soul does not have any of this. Soul doesn't have ego, it doesn't have the id, it doesn't have superego. So why do we need it? Why did we create this system that we are now so dependent on to interact with each other? This, just in case you were wondering, this is not a lesson about what is the ego. We're just establishing that we have a common definition. Right? Yeah, that's all. You all have good experience of ego. We all do, because, we've lived it for so long. But why do we need it? What do we need it for?
Survival on a fairly challenging planet. It's not a very friendly place. Things eat each other here.
Are you pinching yourself?
Yeah.
Why?
To make sure I'm here.
I could pinch you to make sure you're here. This is too much fun. If you think about this, in the earliest times, when man was living in harmony with the seasons, he had no consciousness of ego and superego and id. He had no consciousness, or what you would call self-consciousness, and didn't need a system by which to describe himself. He didn't need a system by which to elevate himself. He didn't even need a system by which to dissect himself, because the way of life, stop it. Just give me a second, I'm shouting at Lou because he is sitting here with his arms crossed and he's pinching himself. And it's not to make sure that you are here.
Carry on, please.
I see you do this regularly. It is a nasty habit of your ego that you engage in unconsciously. No?
Right.
This is what the ego does. It engages in a whole range of unconscious behaviors with no regard for whether or not it is damaging the temple and whether or not it is damaging the soul's experience of being from that temple. This is what the ego does. So the question is, I'm back to the question, why did we need it? Why in heaven's name did we develop an entire psychology to manage ourselves when we were managing just fine? What happened? Did we forget to grow up? Did we forget something along the way? What happened? Yeah, you're the philosophy, history of humanity, how did we develop, right? Yeah? So we know that in the history of human development, as we've grown and evolved and become more and more aware of ourselves in the world, our awareness of ourselves in the world has grown as physical beings. No?
I think our ego's toned down a little bit. I think things were vicious 2,000 years ago. I think things are much nicer now. You've got rights now as a woman. 200 years ago, that was very debatable. You know, things are getting better, so I think the ego is becoming a little bit more conscious of its own being.
See, and I love it when people talk nonsense. I just love it when people talk nonsense.
Why?
Because what you've just said about things are easier now, 200 years ago when women didn't have the vote, and now things are better because women do have the vote.
That's just one example.
Stop right there. Because the fact is that I am soul. I don't actually need some system to give me the vote. And my question goes to even before that. What the hell happened that we needed this systematic self-consciousness, that we had to develop an entire psychology to rule our bodies and our minds on this plane? What the hell happened that we forgot? I am soul. Let's go there. What happened? Because when that happened, and this systematic discrimination against beings began, is when that stupid id had to kick in and we had to survive now. When that happened, women became secondary beings, and the women as they exist in men as yin energy became submissive to yang energy. When that happened, separation began and our disharmony with the universe came into play. So the development of ego begins there. And it is only when ego has developed that disharmony has become real. Before that, we were not even conscious of being separate from things or having three separate parts in our consciousness.
But that's what I said. Ego is becoming a bit conscious now. We didn't have ego. We didn't have consciousness. We didn't know.
You're taking the topic off on a different trend, because as a result of that developing self-consciousness, and I'm saying self-consciousness, that began to separate us and divide us even within ourselves into different psychological components, we then reached what we call the new age, and we started a whole new trend of developing a new kind of awareness to lead us back to oneness. And I'm saying, what the fuck? What did we lose the oneness for in the very beginning? What was it inside of us that needed us to lose that oneness and then work for aeons to regain it? Doesn't that sound like a really stupid system to you? Why must I spend years teaching somebody I am soul when we knew that to begin with? What happened? Where did we lose this mastery of ourselves? And to what? What became the master? See? That's what I want to know. What is the master today? Who is the master of your consciousness today? I don't know. For some people, master of their universe is money. See? For some people, master of their universe is love. For some people, master of their universe is their god dog. For some people, it's partnership. Way back then, when we were getting into disharmony, it became survival. And it became this wonderful phrase that we all know now, survival of the fittest. Yeah? Survival of the fittest. We know all of these cliched words.
But that's a subjective view of something. The way we see it. It's
The phrase survival of the fittest takes us into a subjective understanding of what is the fittest.
Horrible, yeah, that's a horrible,
But it's the kind of cliche
yes, exactly.
that drives an entire system of discrimination and separation called competition.
Because you now give names to something that to certain nature of things. So you start classifying, and then we all know where that goes.
Well, I don't know that we all know where that goes. You see, part of this whole discussion is about, if all of this stuff is happening in the world anyway, and it's been happening for so long, some of us sitting in our egos, not quite certain what those egos are or what our identities are, because we have gotten our identities from so many different places and so many different roles, from so many things that we wear and so many cultures and religions that we're born into. So there's so many things, and you're right, it's a crazy world. There's so many things to inform this. But inside of us, each and everyone has a choice. We have a choice about what inspires us. We have a choice about what drives us. We have a choice about what masters us. Or whether or not we are masters of self. And on the spiritual pathway where we are working for self-mastery, there is this understanding that we must know self and master that self in order to experience the self as master of self before one can say, I am on a pathway to nirvana or oneness with God. Which I think is pretty ridiculous, actually. Because here's the shitty thing again. We were born in oneness. Now, if we could stop and just say, hold on, I have bought into a system of thinking that is incorrect. I have bought into a system of thinking that has obliged me to be like this, to make money in order to make a life. I have bought into a system of thinking that says it's okay to rationalize yourself as soul, but meanwhile, in the real world, come and live here and work hard and make money and build your picket fence and buy your car and do this and do that and do that until you die. And then, when you die, you can remember that you are soul again. In other words, yes, of course, have the notion I am soul, but on the ego plane, where your unconscious mind is interacting directly with everything that is within you, and is choosing what it interacts with and how it interacts with the physical plane from a distorted view of what is real, stick with survival. Stick with this priority. So what is the master? If we are sticking with survival, then money is the master. I go to work every day because I don't have enough money for that. Meanwhile, while you're going to work every day because you don't have enough money for that, you will go and buy a book that is going to teach you the secrets of manifestation. Stop wasting your money. Stop wasting everybody's money. I'm just so curious about this.
Are we suffering from some kind of amnesia?
I think we're deluded.
But isn't it our evolution is causing our de-evolution? So...
What de-evolution? Are you saying de-evolution like D is written in capital letters?
No, man, that way.
Hold on, hold that thought.
Opposite.
Is everybody over here, just give me a heads up, because we're having this big discussion and I don't want you to feel left out. I actually want you to have this big debate. I want you to have this fight in your head. Let's fight about this. Let's have a big hoo-ha about this. Because I want to know what the fuck happened inside of us that we lost mastery of ourselves and we have given mastery of ourselves to every goddamn delusion on the earth plane. Give me an answer, somebody. Anybody.
I think...
Hi, Oliver here. If we've been in stages in the past where we've been so connected, we have come to the playground to go through the experience as we are part of God. We've had the experience in the past of being connected. We're now having the experience or a range of experiences where we are not connected and seeking to be connected on this realm again. So it's another range of experiences that we have chosen to go through, and this is a playing ground for us to have these experiences.
Thank you, Oliver. This is exactly the kind of thing that I have been teaching for years, and I have to tell you, it is one of the ways in which we make meaning in our lives. That we look at the opposite of who we are, and we say, We are having this experience in order to come back to who we are. And my challenge to the people who are doing this set of meditations for 6 years now is, what happens inside of us that we are not knowing I am soul? What is going on that we are still so self-conscious that we still have to use this process Oliver is talking about when he says we regard an experience that opposes our oneness by making meaning of it and saying we are working towards that. Where is this knowing I am soul? Where is it? And why is it so difficult for any one of us to know it, not just to believe it, but to know it and to live from it? First and foremost, I am soul. I say it at every meditation. I am hammering it in every time we talk. Why don't we know it? We have experiences of our chakras, right? We have past life experiences. We're not losing our memories from one lifetime to the next. We've experienced them in this meditation group of memories coming alive inside of us, of a knowing coming alive inside of us. We've had experiences of connecting with other people and feeling them and being able to read them. We have experiences of ourselves in connectedness with spirit. Why is it so difficult? What is that big block sitting inside of us on a rational level that says between the unconscious and your conscious reality, I am soul is always in doubt? Why? What is this reliance on the ego personality self? The external, tangible, physical plane world, which is actually such a grand illusion, to be present. What is that? What is that dependency? And is that dependency one of the reasons we are stuck? Haven't you all noticed that about dependency? It's the prostitute transactional relationship. Anywhere you have a dependency, it will control you. Now the ego system is sitting there in survival mode. It thrives on dependency on all of those identities. I am female, I am male, I am black, I am white, I am green, I am yellow, I am rich, I am poor, I am whatever on the physical plane that the soul doesn't know anything about and doesn't identify with. So the ego knows all that, and the ego is usually the know-it-all one, right? Yeah. So the ego has a dependency on everything that it knows on the physical plane. And when you say to it, I am soul, it says, oh, that's such a nice, happy thought. I like that thought, I am soul. I will use it when I go to meditation. I will use it occasionally when I am coloring my mandala or I'm practicing meditation. I will use it when I am purporting to speak my spiritual truth to all of those other egos that I meet. And I will conveniently forget it when it suits me. What is going on inside our so-called evolved minds? You know, we evolved from the monkeys. Inside these so-called evolved minds, that I am soul is so unbelievable, so far away from our tangible reality. You're coming to meditation for 6 years now. Do you know that you are soul?
Yes.
And yet the way you live your life every day is on the physical plane, right?
No, I live as soul.
Hmm?
I live as soul.
And yet you're sitting there telling me that it's such a horrible world. That it's a dog-eat-dog world. That this is a crazy place where you can get devoured and consumed. Huh?
Happens.
Yeah. We're having big discussions. No, we all do this, Lou. You're just like where I'm talking now, right? We all do this. We have big discussions right here about poverty consciousness. Over and over and over again. Over and over and over again, I'm saying, I am light. You are light. You are made of the stuff of the stars. Why doesn't anybody believe that? You know, it's like saying the Guru is God and the God has said all of this. Now I can forget it and go there and get on with the making of money. I can go on with my suffering and my hardship in the world, because that is actually the real world. I am soul is not the real world. So here's my challenge to everybody. Everybody. If I am soul is not the real world, then everybody must set aside their etheric beingness. Set it aside. All that intuitive intelligence. Put it one side. See if you can do that. Can you? No. Switch off all those chakras. Can't do that? No? No? Give up breathing. Can't do that?
Technically you can, but you might not make it past that point.
Yeah, your tangible reality ceases to exist the minute you stop breathing. And where in God's universe did this capacity, the impetus, the desire, and what we call on the physical plane, the need to breathe, come from? I have big fights with this. I do not know why I am soul is not a more tangible reality for everybody. You all will accept it when I say I am doing distance healing from here. It works. Hands-on healing, psychic surgery, it all works. I say open your third eye and you do it. And then, what happened to I am soul? Oh, I wiped my feet on the way out. I left it in the center. So I come to Yabba302. I am soul. I go home. I am what again? Oh, don't know. Ego. Dysfunctional ego, functional ego, don't know. Don't know. Now how can your abundance, and by your abundance I don't just mean your physical plane prosperity, I mean your abundance in terms of every capacity that lives within you, be alive and well if you are not living it? If you are forgetting I am soul. If you don't believe I am soul. I know. This is the third time this year, I think, we're having this discussion. But I keep coming back to it because we all seem to have an overweening attachment and dependency on the physical body for our identities, and on the physical plane delusion for our identities. So right now, I want you to decide that you are actually not any of these things that you think you are, and that underneath all of that thinking that you think you are that is the doubt that you are that. No? Should I say that again? Was that too complicated a sentence? Now isn't it amazing how my brain works? That it can go 3 layers down with no restrictions whatsoever. And it can keep the grammar straight. Why? I am soul. When the soul is doing the thinking, there's no question of being able to follow the argument. I have now confused everybody on this group. Isn't that so? Not yet. Working on it. Think about this for a minute. Here is all of your thinking. I am that. All of the ego identity. Healthy ego, unhealthy ego, set that thought aside. It doesn't matter whether your ego is healthy or unhealthy for this particular purposes. What matters is that it has all of that thinking that says, I am that. And there are your limitations. And then underneath that thinking is, I am not that. I am in doubt that I am that. All that not good enough thinking. 2 layers. Third layer, I don't know that I am that, and I don't know that I am not that. Now I'm completely confused. So, simplify it all. I am soul. There's no such thing as a good enough soul. There's no such thing as self-esteem for a soul. Every soul is valuable. Every soul is meaningful. No soul has to create meaning out of its existence. It is meaningful just by being in existence, whether it's on the earth plane or the spiritual plane. So this mastery of self that we are talking about in our spiritual lives isn't just mastery of one's ego or one's identity in the world. It is a mastery of that core belief, I am soul. Until you know that identity, we will keep hitting a brick wall, we will keep hitting a boulder that we must go around or climb over on this spiritual pathway, because the biggest fight on this spiritual pathway is the knowing I am soul. It doesn't matter how many houses of sacred contracts we go through. It doesn't matter how many meditations you practice every week. It doesn't matter. For as long as you hold the belief that you are that body, that you are that name, that you are that game you are playing, that game will be a priority over the knowing, the intuitive wisdom, the right action, the right thought, the right beingness of soul. And then you will die, and you will come here and do it again with that additional delusion that the last time you did it, the world was a harsh place, but you're coming back anyway. And this is how we create that victim archetype, and we bring it here as a cosmic archetype. I've come here so many times, and the earth is a harsh place. It's not the earth. The earth is not a harsh place. It is what it is. It is you on the earth, perceiving it in a particular way, from an earth-bound reality, and not knowing I am soul. So I asked my Lord Husband, what does it take for people to know I am soul? And Shivdi Baba said, people always require miracles. They need miracles to believe in God. They need miracles to be shown that there is more than the physical plane reality. They need miracles. They need evidence that God is before they can even consider that they are. So I don't know what kind of miracles to show you to prove that you are soul. All I can say is go right back to June 5-6 years ago, June 2012, start the series of meditations again, and in every one of them you will experience the miracle of meeting yourself. Because that is actually the miracle. It is a miracle that you are here at all, listening to this big debate about why don't you know your soul? And if you don't know that your soul, what is mastering you other than yourself? What is the master of your fate? Yeah? What is it that Robin Williams said? Captain, oh my captain? Yeah? He's asking, what is the master of your fate? If not, I am soul. Yes, what is the master of your fate?
Quickly.
Yes, go ahead.
A very phenomenal thing that just hit me in my language. When we meet somebody that's good, the direct English translation would be, but this is an ancient saying, like a soul of that person is a soul of a woman or a soul of a man, meaning that origin of
Yes.
the human.
The origin of the being.
The being.
Is soul.
Yeah, so you don't say like, oh, he's good. You say like when somebody's really wholesome, I don't think you can translate it. But
Well, it's exactly like namaste.
yes.
Yeah? Namaste is that the divine in me, I the soul, acknowledges you the soul. This is the Sanskrit greeting. And so many of our traditional greetings that come from way back when do that. That when I see you the soul, first and foremost. And if I'm seeing you the soul first and foremost, it doesn't matter what you're wearing today. It doesn't matter what color your hair is. It doesn't matter whether you have shoes on. There's no class or economy. There's nothing else attached to that. Because I see soul And here's the other thing we know. Soul doesn't have ego. So I see purity. There is no such thing as an impure soul or a wounded soul. The only soul that has dirt on it is the one on your shoes. Now why have we stopped doing this? When this is in fact mastery of the physical plane, where we have come to do what? Survive. Our key, most vital way of surviving on the earth plane has been set aside for survival from ego, as opposed to survival from I am soul. And I, the soul, doesn't seek to survive. I, the soul, seeks to experience, to live as fully as possible. In fact, for a soul, if it can come here for 10 years and do what would normally take 30 years, it's very happy. It means that it has accomplished sooner than expected, and it can go home sooner than expected. If we gave you a contract to go and do that job in that country for 5 years and said, but you can return home to your family quicker if you finish it faster, what will you do? Don't say it depends on which country. You will finish it faster to go home. Yes, I don't need a clever mind. What I need is mastery of self. See? Mastery of self. Because this cleverness of our mind is going to get us stuck in nitpicking, in technical details, in splitting hairs. For what? To avoid the truth? I am soul? Why must we have all these games? My client said to me today, I love my daughters. They are the light of my life. And I said, no, you don't. If you hit their mother, you do not love your daughters. And he couldn't see the connection. If you are disrespectful to their mother, you do not love your daughters. And yet, I will still fight for you to keep this relationship. I will not let her take them from you. Because this relationship is the saving of you. This sacred contract, soul to soul, that we have with each other is the saving of all of us. But how will we have it if we don't know I am soul? If we buy into the drama of the physical plane and we put that first, how will we honor these contracts? How will we honor ourselves when we are playing these ego games and dishonoring ourselves on the earth plane through ego and making excuses for it and rationalizing it and looking to get away with it? We dishonor ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, never mind spiritually. Paddy? What is mastering you instead of you? All of us have mind, unconscious, conscious, subconscious, superconscious. We are consciousness. There is no law that has greater authority than spiritual law, and yet everybody has a get away with it mentality. What are you going to get away with it? You might get away with it in man's law, but spiritual law, you will meet it over there. You put it there, you will meet it there. Simple. How will you get away with it? More importantly, all of the people you are contracted to will not get away with it, and for as long as you are running around in an ego state, thinking that there is no greater authority, that you have all this authority and power over the physical plane, well, that too will meet you there. Eventually something will meet you there. I have a client lying in the ICU in St. Augustine's, and he has too much money, and he can throw all of that money at the doctors at St. Augustine's. He can buy the whole hospital if he likes. He's going to be dead by Sunday. He's not going to buy his way out of this one. No amount of arrogance is going to give him more oxygen or keep his heart beating. Nothing's going to serve this purpose. Now it's too late. And it's too late to ask God to resurrect this miracle body that he had to begin with. It's too late. Sometimes when we meet ourselves, it is when it is too late. Now he's praying. Now he wants to have a relationship with God. Huh? Why? God learned a long time ago not to trust you. He came by and he came by and he came by and you ignored him. Now, what do you think? He's sitting on your doorstep waiting for you to pray? And then he changed his mind and he said, no, he has to die now because God is calling him. I'm going, forget it. God doesn't even know your name at this point. God is calling. God is not calling you to die. Your body is giving up on you because that's what you were doing. You were being dishonorable with it. This is the consequence of being a shit. Now die. Done. What is the problem? Don't laugh at me. It's the truth.
That's exactly why it's so sad and funny at the same time.
You're all smiling. I'm not ranting and raving here, people. This is important. You have to stop and look inside of yourself. If you do not know I am soul, and you are consciously and constantly living this earth plane reality as if it is the priority, as if it is why you are here, as if it is who you are, then what? Will you always be mastered by something outside of you? And if you are, and it takes a lot of lifetimes to shift out of that delusion into a consciousness that I am soul and that I may actually achieve mastery of myself and a blissful communion with the divine right here on earth, that's okay. There's no harm in that. There's nothing wrong. There are no dire consequences or anything. But at least have the gumption, at least have the integrity to sit quietly and say, okay, that's where I am in my understanding, in my acceptance, in my journey towards I am soul. And when you do that, when you say, okay, 10% of me is like consciously intending from I am soul, and the other 90% of me is still doing the I am my human ego subscribing to the physical plane delusion, then you must have the understanding that what you are meeting later on is still concerned, is still aligned with the physical plane delusion. You can't say over here, I am soul, and then go and live that anyway, and then, lo and behold, have the expectation of an I am soul delivery into abundance. Did you all get that? Yeah. This is the lack of integrity. I have a lot of clients. When will that happen? When you align yourself with the divine? Oh, I went to meditation 3 weeks in a row, you know. Oh yeah, nice. Oh, wonderful. Shall I give you a pat on the back? Would you like a star for each week? Shall we have a rating card? What? You're laughing again. This alignment, and this alignment is important. Jupiter has just moved. Jupiter is just like so beautifully placed. It's moved zodiac signs into the house of Sagittarius. It's all fired up. Venus is going straight shortly. We should all be geared up to move forward. Now Jupiter is the planet of wisdom. And from this planet of wisdom we're saying, what is your wisdom? Are you inhibited somewhere in your thinking and in your secondary thinking and in your third process thinking that you are less than I am soul? And is this big issue of not good enough for anybody, that's creating poverty consciousness. Actually, this feeling of separation, of, what's wrong? Of not being soul, inside out. Because what I know for certain, for absolutely certain, is that for as long as there is a part of us that is in doubt about I am soul, then we are in doubt about our connectedness, our divine right to abundance. Isn't that so? Yeah. How will we ever feel and know that not only are we worthy of it, but that it is already ours? So for me, as Jupiter moved into Sagittarius and Venus starts to go direct again, and we are coming out of the deep dark days of the sun in Scorpio, where all things shadowy and mysterious must be dug up for everybody to look at, we are in a position to set ourselves straight, to use this wisdom. I am soul. If you practice nothing else of a mindful nature from this moment on, and you just stuck with I am soul, then we will have mastery of self. Until then, we will live in doubt. Maybe I'm soul, maybe I'm ego, I should go to work just in case. Just in case the guru is wrong, and all the self-help books I bought are wrong, just in case the Adi Yogi is wrong, I should go to work. I should have a job instead of a vocation. I should live in fear. I should think about what other people will think. Who are they? Souls. No, who are they? Egos. Sorry. Because I am soul also determines how we see all those other people. If we will see them as a threat, if we will see them as competition, if we will see them as opposition, if we will see them as enemies or friends, if we will see them as strangers and immigrants, or if we will see them as souls. So I don't want to have this fight with this group again. I don't have this fight with the Tuesday group because they are new. This group, I can have this fight. 302 meditations later, I can say, what the fuck is wrong with you? Can you make up your mind? Are you or are you not soul? What are you?
Soul.
So, from this day forth, I'm going to hold you to that. Mm-hmm. Did you hear him, Lord Husband? He said, soul. We'll see. Let's meditate.